I'm Katherine Simóne Reynolds. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm here on a Center for Afrofuturist Studies residency. And yeah, that's about it. I mainly focus, right now my practice is focusing on Black beauty as well as Black glamour and gesture and language within that. So as well as like confidence. I did a confidence workshop while I was here, as well as like doing a banner for PS1 about like utilizing or a reference to a black or for a beauty ad, and it has this woman's lips like throughout the whole thing. So it's looking at like fetishism as well as language and trust within language for Black women.
And is this an evolution, a step forward, or like sort of continuing along a line of thoughts that you've been working with in your previous work?
It's kind of like, I guess, a continuation in a way, because it's still interacting with the subject, whether or not the subject is myself or others. So it's actually kind of like utilizing choreography through my own practice. So kind of like looking at people's authentic movement and working within that, as well as like posing and how they feel about that. So it's really seeing how I interact with subjects as well as like just coming up with poses together. Yeah.
And this word like authentic movement is something that you've used that sounds complicated. Do you have more words about that?
Yeah. So I say authentic movement because whenever we first start shooting, I always tell people there's no wrong, there's only right. But if I don't like it, I'll let you know. Like if it's not really working for like, you know, the piece, then I'll let you know. So it's really a collaborative effort whenever we're shooting. So I'm basically using the camera as just like a tool for documentation, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And can you say more about the camera? You know, it's a tool for documentation, but I feel like it's also playing a role in your work a little bit that I've seen. Right.
I mean, because I say that because like I feel lately I've been saying more so like photo-based as opposed to like being I'm a photographer, because it just comes with like a lot of like, I guess, loaded language of like nerding out just about the camera itself. But really it's about the way that I interact with my subject, which is like the main part of it. And I don't know, I started out as saying I'm a photographer, which I mean I have like the foundational skills of this, but it's more than just about the camera. So like with like Arthur Jafa's quote about the camera being still like a white gaze, no matter who's behind it. And that's like a recent quote that I just like found out about, but it really hit home with me with like how I'm still like, because the majority of my subjects are Black people, and I don't want the camera to interrupt or like interject into like our conversation that we're having together, whether or not we're using words. With it just being like something that is there for me to just document our interaction together, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And then to that end, can you talk more about these, like your desire to like bring attention to relationships, like the intimacy of relationships? Like it seems like a very interesting, specific thing.
I think that like kind of comes with like, and I've been thinking a lot about like, especially like my time here, with the fact that I am someone that is like extremely like independent, but I am in a relationship, as well as like this assumption on relationships. That's something that I've also been exploring, like with twins or people that look like they're twins, but also the relationship of the photographer and the subject, where it doesn't have to be this thing of you know, give me more. Like it's like, what do you want to bring more, like of this like interaction or this conversation? How do you want to present yourself? I've recently been more so interested in like showing the like the people that I work with, like the photos afterwards, because I really want to know what they think. And it's not in like a way of, oh, like which one do you think is like great for you? It's more so like which one is like speaking to you in another kind of way. So it's a different, it's a more intimate interaction than like I was really able to accept earlier on with my practice. I think it's because I have more confidence in the like shooting element, you know, because everybody just wants to see a clear image. And so if you're not actually able to provide that at the beginning, then it's like, what are you actually doing? And so I wasn't really comfortable with showing people things because I was like really insecure with the way that I was like taking photos. But now it's like I can actually just have like a conversation with people on like what they actually like and what they feel is channeling the energy that like we had with the shoot.
Mm-hmm. And so you're also talking about developing this persona that's like that you were working on while you were here. Did that still come together?
Mm-hmm.
Can you say about it?
Yeah. So I was working on a sad disco queen. Her name's Poutine Jackson. Basically, kind of taking this persona of Donna Summers and like making her like modern in a way. I mean, even though like disco, I don't say like disco's dead, but it's just not ever going to be the same as like what it was in like 60s, 70s, even 80s. But the fact that like with Donna Summers, it's like she is the disco queen. Like, you know, she is it, but at the same time she like wanted to kill herself at one point. And what that actually means with like private and public self. Because that's something that I've struggled with for a really long time, with being like anxious as well as like having depression. And I've worked within like mental health within like Black women as well, with, you know, my mother suffering from like being bipolar as well as like, you know, having depression and passing those things on to me. And how I look at myself within those like types of environments, like with like a lot of people and openings and, you know, talks and panels and exhibitions, like all of these things. It's like I gravitated towards this disco queen, but sad because she's understanding this like fame and it's taking a lot out of what she actually wants to be doing, what she actually wants to be saying. It's not really her. So
what's like the play between this persona that you're developing, which sounds like a relationship with a character, and then these relationships that you're cultivating with the people you photograph?
Wow, I never actually thought about that. That's a really good question. I think like a lot of this stems from coming from a divorced household and seeing what separation looks like, you know, like in the relationships that I've had with my parents and like how different they are, as well as like how how I deal with relationships and how I deal with friendships. And how a lot of them are, it's like really easy for me to, I don't want to say like cut people out of my life because it just like sounds like really harsh and violent, but it's just like it's easy for me to like find a way out, I guess, because I don't quote unquote need it. So I think trying to facilitate these relationships with subjects like in a really short amount of time to try and promote like the most organic, the most like real feelings within two people working together in a really saturated environment. I think that is what stimulates me to continue the work that I'm doing.
Two questions.
Okay.
One is what is like the saturated environment that you're talking about? Because it does seem like there's this like performance that you're doing with your subjects, which has to do with like an intimacy of private selves or something that I feel like you're going for, which I think it seems like you're relating to like family, and your own sort of interior feelings that you want to like share with people in this way, just like through performance. And then it also sounds like you're making reference to kind of like culture that you feel saturated that either prevents you from doing that or something.
Yeah. You're asking such good questions. I feel like because I am like the saturation is emotion, to be honest. Like if anything, it's like because I am a really emotional person. Even right now, I'm like, I'm not gonna cry. It's gonna be fine. But it's this instant emotion, this instant connection that I have with people, that my mom has like taught me how to do, as well as my father, who's like extremely charismatic. So it has this like weird, because charismatic doesn't mean real. You know, it just means that you're able to like sell someone on something. But
and it can be dangerous.
And it can be extremely dangerous. And as well as like the fact that my mom comes from a place where it's like speaking about like language, body language, connectivity, those are all things that are extremely real and extremely like important to actually like have a beneficial relationship with someone. And I think with photography, having this line of fake and realness and the balance that I have with my parents, I really think that that's like why I do interact with people the way that I do, as well as like with a dance background of like needing to connect with bodies and see bodies within a space. And then still having, I think for me, like it's therapeutic. Like I need to like get a lot of emotions out that I can't actually talk about with people. And with my work, it's just like that. It's just like that, like, I feel safe there. And I've always felt safe within, I just feel really independent, I guess. And I've always felt really safe within, like, my own independence, my own, like, it's like a survival technique almost. Needing to connect with others to make sure that I'm not crazy, you know? If that answered that question.
No, for sure. Although there's this, you talk about your parents in connection to, like, how you're thinking about these relationships. But, like, the balance of your family and parents.
Yeah.
Can you say more about your family? Or like how that informs, like why are you bringing up your parents when you're talking about these performances? Or
well, I think because it just deals with a lot of like how I look at like my parents are divorced, so I don't really see like a lot of like I just saw like a lot of like separation, as well as like looking at how to make things I didn't see a lot of clarity, and I guess like I'm just like searching for that. And I search for that like within like working with basically strangers at times, but like it's this weird like I guess like love at first sight thing. I don't know, like I'm just thinking about it now because you're making me think about like a lot of the ways that I interact with people. But comfortability that you can feel within someone that you just meet, or like even like that social media thing, like why you press follow, you're like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna actually like really like this person. But it's that same kind of like feeling that you have whenever you want to work with someone. You don't really know this person. Like I was only here for like 2 weeks, so it's like how am I going to find someone that I can connect with to actually work with them within that 2 weeks? Oh, okay, awesome, I met this person who introduced me to this person, and now we're working together. We're in this weird reservoir, and now we're like just talking and listening to like, you know, Ghetto Gothic and like Venus X and talking about Hood by Air, and like, but you already kind of you don't necessarily know that you're going to have that experience with someone, but it just makes it so much like more important to see like human connection like that, like, okay, like awesome, like you also like this like random DJ from wherever, and you're also teaching me things about my own practice. Like right now, like even like you're asking me all these like really amazing questions that I haven't really thought about for a while. And with my parents and my family, it's like I didn't really like grow up like thinking about love because I already knew it was there. You know, like it wasn't something that I thought like I needed to like see, but for some reason with my work, it's like I want people to feel comfortable. Like I want them to know that like, you know, this documentation of like what we're doing right now is like valid and it's important. You know, what they're doing right now is important, and it's not just about like some random photo shoot.
Yeah, I bet you're good at that.
I hope so. I hope so.
Can you talk more about the specifics of the person you found though while you were here?
Yeah, so I worked with Ralph. I don't know if you know him, but he's incredible. And we went out to the Coralville like dam, I guess, on the beach.
Dreads.
He could just cut them.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's like extremely flamboyant, extremely charismatic, like very like, this is me, you know, Taurus energy. I only say that because I'm a Taurus, but whatever. But we connected immediately, and it was really great that like I was introduced to him by Mike, who is also in the studio space, and who I was introduced to by Anais. And it's like all these connections of like, you know, similar energy or people that you think that you will actually like fuck with. And I just find it really cool to work with people that are just like, yo, like we have this cousin, like family energy that is beneficial. Huh. And so we went to the reservoir or the dam, and I don't know which one it is because I've heard people say both. Yeah. And then we went to like a cornfield. Yeah. Yeah, and so looking at like mass in different types of ways, as well as like kind of like what you were talking about, like what you said, like you went to like this point, this high point where you could see all the fields, and because you're used to seeing this like mass, like the ocean, but like you're looking at plains, and that really kind of stuck with me because I was like, yeah, like I mean, I've been to Iowa before, and I've always been just like kind of, I felt so small because it just feels so expansive. And that's kind of how I felt when I first saw the Coralville Dam. Like I was just like, this is crazy. It's holding back like water, like so much water, like this whole thing of like mass. And so seeing like working with Ralph with this like blue jumpsuit that, you know, like didn't really fit him properly, but it still worked, you know. And he was really down to work with me, and seeing him within that mass, and then also the mass of like natural space. So it also goes from like man-made to natural, like that. But it's also about like mass.
There also seems though to be like some element of, and I keep thinking about this idea of like separation and desire for cohesion, like in you performing these like selves and also trying to like perform some idea of like family and intimacy with these people you meet and really hit it off with, that there's like this desire for also a connection with the landscape in a similar way.
Yeah, like I usually look for like a lot of desolate places, like blank slate things, but I also really like to see remnants of like humanness, you know. Like I have a series called Slow Drain that is in a abandoned like office park. So it's like also seeing this like corporate kind of feel within that space, but it's also expansive in its own kind of way. But I really like love talking to you, I guess, because it really makes me think about what I'm doing, and people don't ask questions like in a non like aggressive way that you are, I guess.
Oh, good.
Like seriously, like say I mean that because this is like an interview, whatever, but it still like makes me continue to think about my own practice in a really healthy way.
Great, that's the point, right?
I mean, you would think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you meet like academic people that like don't really know how to ask questions.
Yeah, that's so true. What about? I had another question, and I got an ego boost. What was it? It was about the like futurist part of the Center for Afrofuturism and how you see yourself sort of fitting in with this idea of like projected futures or something that's like not here but desired.
I think that like for me, with the way that like I was raised, it's probably, I mean, this is the whole thing about my family, but it's not like this like, I don't want to say stereotypical black family story because it's not. Like I was made fun of for not watching Friday when I was in high school, you know, that kind of thing, and I think that I'm just constantly searching for difference because I've always like, not to be like I've always been different, like it's not that, it's just like I've always wanted difference and I've always like not really fit in. So what kind of work does someone make when they've never really fit in? You know, they make work for progress and for the future. And I'm just constantly searching to like make new things that represent blackness and that aren't just about the black struggle story.
So like, what is like your blackness then?
I mean, to be honest, like that's something that like I'm constantly like thinking about. Like I have, you know, these women on my walls, and like not all of them are black because there's also Selena, but it's women that like have made me feel more confident in my life, you know, and that's my blackness, is like having these women that like, even in my own studio space, temporary studio space, that look down at like what I'm doing, like just to like have that like kind of like imagery is like my blackness. Like my mom being a speech language pathologist is my blackness. You know, looking at the way that I speak and how other black women speak, like, but we're still black, that's my blackness. And how we can still have like a conversation about braids, like, oh, hey girl, like I really love your hair, like, oh, I really love your nails, like that's like really this like conversation about just like black women. And up until really like recent, I wasn't really comfortable with like that because I didn't really know how to navigate within that kind of space of like just being complimentary. You know, like just like saying like nice things and like looking at black women on the street whenever we're walking and like smiling, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this like fake smile. It can just be like, yo, like we're like really out here like in Iowa City, like like, you know, it could be something like that, and it feels nice. And I don't have to, I can be a you know, a sad disco queen. Like my black joy is my blackness. Like the music that I listen to, the performance that I do, being a contemporary ballet dancer, like that's my own narrative. And it's not something that I need to compare to anyone else. Like this isn't like, so like some of my friends, we talk about this, like the Black Olympics, like it's not this thing of like needing to prove how black I am. Like, because I'm black, like, and what I'm doing is my blackness. So I think that it's something that I've like really have recently just been like, you know, I'm gonna do this the way that I want to do it, and I've always had that in my mind. But for some reason, like, you know, you get led astray in other ways of like what you should be doing. With your sexuality, with like how you identify, whatever. And and I also think like the fact that me like telling my mom that I'm, you know, queer, it's like, and that's a new thing, like to actually have like, for me, like this like term that like I can fit into finally, like, because I wasn't comfortable with anything else before. So I think that that's also like my own blackness. Like one of my friends, Maurice, he said like to be black is to be queer.
Yeah.
If you're just looking at the word. So,
yeah.
You know.
It's interesting too. I almost wonder if like maybe that's the wrong question to ask too. Like, what is your blackness? Because I feel like the part of it is just also resisting this idea that you brought up of Black Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, it's like, I wasn't offended by the way that you asked that. Yeah. And I think if someone else, maybe I would be, but like, I'm not offended by what you just said. And it's something that like, I need to talk about because it makes me feel better. Because it's more so affirming with like what I'm doing right now. Because like, to be honest, like I don't always know what I'm doing, and I think that, I mean, we've talked about this and like how that's okay.
And to be embraced. Right.
And it's like actually a really good place to be at, because it's kind of boring when you kind of know like what's going to happen for you. And the work that you make isn't really I like the work that I made while I was here because I was just making it. Like, you know, like I was just, you know, let's do a video, let's do this. Like I wanted to do a performance. It didn't really work out, but it's okay. But I feel like I've grown so much just by like being okay with things not happening and picking up pieces like where they fall and like putting them back the wrong way. And like looking at it like, oh, this is a new masterpiece that like I never even knew that I was ever going to create. So I guess like this, to be honest, I guess was my first residency that like I feel like I've done them before, but I feel like this is the most beneficial one because I had a purpose. Like I had a real purpose, and I you know felt valued for like the work that I've made and the work that I will make. And I want to come back here. It's like really, really, really cool. Like it's so cool because I really have always wanted to leave the Midwest and like, you know, but this place, it's like, it's kind of a paradise for me in a way, because it's 4 hours away, which isn't too bad, but it's enough away to where I can feel distance from like an intense environment.
Yeah, for sure. One more question was the use of music for you, or like how are you relating to music?
So I just got back into really listening to music again, because for a really long time I was just like not really researching music, and that was something that I did in college, and I was always just saying I didn't have time to do this. So now I'm like back to listening to like just like internet radio, which, you know, whatever, I'm a millennial, I guess this is what we do. Is listen to internet radio, but I listen to NTS radio, and you can just see like what you want to listen to. And so it's like, you know, new wave or dream pop or disco or boogie or rap or chopped and screwed. Like I can listen to all these things that makes me excited and goes into the way that I answer my emails, or, you know, the way I clean my house, or the way that I am working with someone. Even with working with Ralph, it was like I had on like just like my music just playing, like a couple like Drake tracks played, and then some other things, and all of a sudden like Venus X, like this like mixtape played, and it actually really worked. It really, really worked for the piece. So we're like, now like I like want to actually like use that in the video that I made, and I'm so grateful for finding music again, as well as film.
But like, how are you thinking about music in your art? Because it seems like something that comes into your art a bunch, or at least with these interactions with strangers.
I mean, It's not really. I mean, kind of, but like, not. It's not something that where I'm like, oh, like we just talk about music.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not really like, you know.
There you go.
Yeah. That's about it.
What else? What else should we know? Is there a direction that you think from your time here you want to explore more of?
I think I want to give more teen workshops. That was like a really like high note for me, is like giving this like teen workshop with G World and like about confidence and like performance and sound and selfies. So I think that that's something that I would really like to do more of, because that was my first time really giving one. So I think, because I was nervous about giving a workshop on confidence, so that was telling for me. And then also hearing other young women talk about how they haven't, like, no one's really told them like how to feel confident in their life at all, and how to help them, like, because confidence like really is everything. Like, it goes into your work ethic, it goes into how you approach, for me, how I approach subjects. Like, because I've like completely missed out on opportunities to actually like shoot someone that was like absolutely like perfect for something.
Yeah.
Because I just was so nervous that they were just like gonna like, I don't know what they were going to do, like why I was so nervous, but because they could just say no, or like I'm not interested, and it's like that's fine. So I think that learning just that step of like, just do it, just be confident, and it's totally fine. Like, and it's also valid for you to be sad, and that's also confident too. So I think that telling young women that was like really awesome for me, because I needed to hear that at that age. So I would like to do more things like that.
Yeah, tight. You should. I bet you're good at that too.
I try.
Cool. That's all I have.
Yeah.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay, cool.
I'm good.
End it then.
Yay!
Nice job.
Thanks.